So we started with the auto wiring, and what we are learning from this concept is while doing dependency injection of a class into another class. Earlier we used to use the reference tag manually, we used to inject that. Now we are avoiding it by using auto wire. So when I use this auto wire, instead you developer doing this job, container is doing a kind of search within your XML file. And if any dependency your engine class is having, again the dependency it will understand from your setter method. If you see here, I have car class with one engine dependency with one setter method. I have one engine class with fuel dependency. Yeah. Okay. Am I audible now? No, no. I was checking. Someone unable to join the session. I'm just checking with them. Just a minute. Just a minute, guys. Okay. Yeah, cool. So first thing that Spring Container is helping out with the dependency injection by making it auto-wide. So as an artificial robot, it will do a kind of little search on your you know class, and it will identify what dependencies you have, right? What dependencies you have, then that dependencies it will find it from XML file and it will do automatic dependency injection. Okay, when you mention with the by type, what it will do by type, when you use by type, strictly it will check for the type, only type based checking it will do. So when I mention fuel here, okay, fuel is the dependency, it will strictly search for the fuel class. If fuel class is find, then it will inject it irrespective of IDs which you are using. Okay, just it will try to search for this fuel class type. So, is there any fuel class type? It will inject. If more than one fuel class, it will find. If more than one class, if it will find, it will feel ambiguity. It will feel, there is a duplicate object. One more object is available. Then it will confuse it. Then it will confuse and throw exception, unable to inject. Expected single matching, but I found two fuel objects. That's how it used to throw error. Then we found the resolution for that also. When there are two classes, if one class, if it doesn't want to participate in auto wiring, while Spring is coming to search for the auto wiring, right? If it doesn't want to participate, you need to mention for that class auto wire candidate is equal to false. Then that will not participate in auto wiring. Then the confusion will be resolved. If I go with the by name, okay, for setter methods, here we have setter methods. We have, when you have setter method within your class, when you have setter method, or when you have constructor. For setter methods we have three options: by type I can use, by name I can use, and auto detect also I can use. Whereas for constructor I can use there is an option called constructor, and there is an option called auto detect. Auto detect is useful for both. When you mention by name or by type, strictly you need to see that your class is having setter method or not. When you use constructor, you should strictly check whether your class is having constructor or not. When you mention auto detect, you need not to worry whether your class is having setter method or constructor. It will do the dependency injection. Okay, so now we understand with the by type. When I mentioned by type, this type and my class type should be same. If I go with the by name, if I go with the by name, my reference name, here I am using f, right? Set f. This reference name and your ID name should be same. When I go with the by name, your class anyway should match. Into field only I can able to inject the field. Along with that, this ID should match your ID and this reference name. Whatever reference name you are using in your class and whatever ID you are using in your class. This both should match in case of by name. Yeah, this one only. So same reference name only we will use for setter method. Generally set field we don't mention. Here your setter method name is like set f. Your variable name only we will use for method name, right? Set f. So you always your setter method name and this name will be same. This name is equal. So that's why I'm referring this. Okay, your setter method name, or else you can say your setter method name should match exactly with your ID. Of course, your setter method name is your variable name only, variable reference name only. Okay, so your variable reference name and ID should match exactly, or you can say your setter method name and your ID name should match exactly, along with the field type. Along with your type, this name should match your ID, and this should be same, or else it cannot able to do the dependency injection. See here, let me create one more XML file. String2 XML file by name. I'm creating by name XML file. When I configure here, I have two beans, fuel1 and fuel2. Let me remove whatever candidate also. So one fuel is diesel and one fuel is petrol. Now instead of by type, I will use by name here. For engine class, when I mention AutoWire by name, first thing container will go to engine class and search for the setter method. Okay, setter method is there. And what is your setter method name? Set the fuel, and this name and this reference name is matching. Okay, so whatever reference name you are using here, right? The same name you have to use for one of this fuel object, either petrol or diesel, whichever you want to inject. Petrol, if you want to inject, this id should match with your variable name. This variable name and your id should match. So automatically this bean only will be injected here. When I use by type, there is a confusion. It will try to search for fuel only. So two fuel classes are available. Then it was confusing. So I configured AutoWire candidate false to disqualify one bean from the AutoWire. But now while using by name, exactly name matching search it will do. If you go to some villages, still Andhra side, in same village you will find let's say 500 voters are there. Out of 500 voters, when you do group by name, right, you will see same name people, at least 50 people with the same name. Like Srinivas is one of the famous name, you will find so many people. Venkat, so many people you will see. So what I am saying is, when it mention by type here, it will find so many fuel objects. If it finds so many fuel objects, then it will confuse it. If you try to search for a Venkat who is having surname something A, surname B, then no confusion. You might have same name people, many, but their initials Their surnames may be different. Okay. So here when I use by name concept, it is not searching with this class name. Instead of searching with this class name, along with that class name, what it will do, it will make sure that your variable reference name, is it matching with this id or not. If your id is not matching, it cannot able to inject it. Same thing, if I apply for car also, in car class I have a setter method set engine. This is the variable reference name. Same name it will expect as a id for your engine. See, earlier we don't have any id restrictions, but if I go with by name, it is making sure that your ids are matching with your dependency setter methods. Car class engine dependency setter method name and your reference name should match, and engine class setter method fuel reference name and this id should match. Then only it will inject. Now it will run. So if I load this xml file into ioc, okay, instead of this old one, let me put this new xml file. Now using by name, see how it will run. Fuel objects created, two fuel objects created, one engine object created and fuel object injected into it, car object created, everything is injected properly. How? Because strictly name following we are here. So that name matching object only will be injected. But if your application is very huge, it has so many classes, thousands of classes, keeping a name restriction will be difficult to you. So always you need to visit your class, check this reference name and the same reference names you need to use. So it will become difficult to developer. By name is maybe it may resolve the conflicts. But in general, there is no chance of getting conflict. We never configure same bean again and again. So if that is the case, why I should remember each class ID and I should configure here? Because if you follow this ID approach, right, throughout this XML file, if you have 1000 classes, each class should have unique ID. ID should not repeat again throughout your XML file. If you repeat the same ID again, it will say duplicate ID. Duplicate ID issues you will get. So same ID, if I try to give this for fuel also, see here itself it is saying ID is duplicate. Fuel attribute ID on the element is not valid with respect to its type ID. So again and again you should not use same IDs. So which one you guys think recommended, by type or by name? Hmm. But we never use, going forward we even never use this bean tags. We never create any IDs or we never put any classes. Everything will be created by Spring only. IDs it will create on its own. So whatever mentioned name in your setter method, even you can't able to configure it. Spring confidently moving towards by type only, because in very rare cases we configure duplicate classes. So no chance of getting confusion. Even if you get that confusion also, there is a way to resolve it. So that's why confidently they are moving with by type approach only. That you will realize, okay, by name I don't recommend, because when I have 10,000 classes to configure here, it is strictly mandatory that you need to follow this ID names and your setter method names same. For developer, putting such a restrictions is a tough thing, right? He need to carefully check each and every class. If he is going to write new class with new setter method, he need to verify all 10,000 classes whether somebody used the same setter method name or not. Correct, right? If you try to use the same setter method name, it will not work. in case of by name. So that is really difficult thing. So by name is not recommended. People will say by name if they don't have actual realization. By name is not at all recommended. Getting right? If you say by name is recommended, which means while using 10,000 classes as a developer, always while writing new class, you need to go and check all the 10,000 classes whether somebody following the same naming convention or not. It's really difficult in the development time. Okay, so for now it looks easy, but during development it's not a easy thing to maintain that same IDs again to your beans. Okay, so let's not use by name, use by type only. Okay, now by name by type are for setter method. If my class is having a constructor, instead of having a setter method, if I have a constructor, then okay, let's say for engine class only we will apply it. Now I don't want a setter method here. Let's comment it. Instead of setter method, I wanted to have here a constructor. I want to have here a parameterized constructor. You can generate it. Go to source, generate constructor using field. Okay, one constructor is added. This is one parameterized constructor. So fuel object. Okay, so default constructor not at all required. Default constructor is removed. So object will create here. Dependency injection also will happen here. Fuel object getting created. Okay, engine object created and fuel object getting injected also. Both are happening at the same time. Now my class is having purely a constructor, engine class. So by type or by name both will not work here in this case. Instead of by type or by name, what you need to use here? Constructor. You need to use here constructor. Then automatically your engine class constructor will be called by passing this fuel. Now in case of constructor, it won't follow any naming convention. But if you give a name, it will use this name. Let's confuse it first. Put F1 and F2. This one also might get confused. When you run this, it will get confused. Constructor injection is getting confused because two fuel objects you found. Unsatisfied dependency injection with name engine. The reason is no unique bean of fuel. Two fuel objects are there, so I can't inject it. Which one do you want to inject it? So maybe you may put, if you want to avoid diesel autoware candidate, make it false. Now diesel will not participate. Only this petrol only will be injected into this engine via constructor. See, no errors. Fuel object created, fuel object created. But this fuel, second fuel is petrol. Petrol is injecting into engine. Engine object is created and fuel object getting injected here only. In a single line, your object is created by passing fuel object. This fuel object is injected into engine via constructor dependency injection. And if you don't know what choice you need to use here, if you don't know whether this class is having setter or constructor, put auto detect. Auto detect is applicable for both, though you have a setter method or constructor. Engine object created and fuel object getting injected. Which property I used? I used auto detect. Hmm. Yeah, single constructor, multiple constructor. Correct. You can have. Good question. So if you have constructor with the multiple arguments, it all depends on the availability, right? Availability of objects. Hmm, let's see. My engine class is having fuel dependency, or let's take a different example for that. confusion scenario. Project constructor based auto wiring. Add library. String. Okay. So I'll be creating some bean classes here. Beans. I have a store class. I have apple, mango, banana. In the store class, I have apple dependency, mango dependency, banana dependency. And the store is having constructor. One constructor with apple, this dot apple is equal to apple, and one more constructor with apple and mango also. I'll mention apple constructor, apple and mango constructor, apple, mango, and banana constructor. This dot banana is equal to banana. You all getting your question, right? If you have multiple constructors, which constructor it will pick? Which constructor it will choose to inject? So my assumption is based on the availability of this apple, mango, banana in your XML file, it will inject it. Let's create one XML and see. Resources. Fine. Let me create my beans here. Bean ID apple beans dot apple apple mango banana. Now I have these three classes. If I use auto wiring to my store, I wanted to sell apple, mango, banana into my store, so I wanted to inject them into my class store beans dot store, and I will be mentioning here auto wire constructor. So here the question, which constructor it will execute. The store is having apple only constructor, apple with mango constructor, and apple mango banana constructor. Now load it and check. IOC container. Application context, new class path XML application context, resources dash string.xml. Now just run it and see. My imagination is it will execute the three arguments constructor. Yes, apple, mango, banana constructor is executed based on the availability. Store object, while store object creating, if it finds apple, mango, and banana, then three argument constructor only it is called. If the case is like banana is not available, banana object if it is not available, earlier which constructor executed three arguments, apple, mango, banana constructor executed. No, banana is not available, so it is executing apple and mango constructor only. So means your store two arguments. This constructor is executed this time. Yes, am I audible? Okay. Okay. In this case, it will not face any difficulty. Na? You can have any number of beans here. It doesn't care. So here it found that two available, two argument constructor. It needs apple and mango. It doesn't care about banana. It may think that banana may not required for me. It may not consider. Okay, maybe somebody needs that banana. Leave it. I need apple and mango only. Let's inject it. So this is how based on the availability it is picking up your constructor also. Okay. So anyway, at a time one constructor only will be called, right? Either one argument or two argument, three arguments. To create your object, one argument, one constructor only will be called. If it is setter methods, n number of setter methods you can call, but constructor is only one. For one object, one constructor is sufficient. Yeah. Hmm. 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 More than one object you can pass into constructor. Yeah, setter method accepts only one argument at a time, whereas constructor will accept all arguments in a single go. Constructor dependency, correct. Yes. So as this is capable for doing all types of, I mean, all arguments dependency injection, all arguments are required actually. Mandatory, right? I wanted to create object with this store constructor which is having two arguments. Compulsory, I need to give two arguments, otherwise this object it will not create. Or else if you have one argument constructor, compulsory I need to give that one argument, otherwise object will be not created. So when you mention constructor here, It will detect based on the maximum argument constructor here, right? You have three argument constructor and two argument constructor. If two arguments available, automatically it will inject. If you have three arguments constructor, then three arguments also it can inject. Okay, what I was saying is you can use auto detect also. If you are not in a position to check whether this class is having setter or constructor, put auto detect. Auto detect will work for both setter and as well as constructor also. Okay, this is how we do. Yeah, auto detect. Yeah, I'm saying right. You don't know. No. Yeah. So auto detect. See, if you are not in a position to identify whether you need to go with the setter or constructors, your class is having multiple setters and constructors, both. Okay. Consider this is the use case. You have a constructor with three arguments, and I have one setter method also here. Set apple something. Okay. I have one constructor and one setter method also. I wanted to execute both. I want to execute one setter method also. When I mention auto detect, first it will execute all three arguments constructor. So as that is already given, setter is not executed. But if you comment with all these setter methods, I mean constructors, if I comment it here, it will automatically decide that it is having only setter method and it will inject it. Now no constructor. Obviously without constructor no object na. Even to call setter also object is required now. So obviously. So first preference auto detect will give to constructor. If constructor not available, setter will be executed. Okay. Yeah. So this is the way that manually we used to do, but nowadays we are not even seeing this XML files. If you visit any old applications, all these configurations you might see, and maybe for interview's sake also, right? This helps you. Now I want to go to advanced level, right? From here I want to go to advanced level. So now to make you realize what what you achieved from this, right? As I said earlier example, right? When you have lot of classes, lot of controllers, lot of service and lot of DO classes, instead of you doing, let's say I have here it's 1000 plus controllers I have. Okay, only controller layer. We have service classes, and here also count up to 1000 I have, and DAO classes, DAOs also 1000 I have. So here my requirement is, I mean if I go with Spring, all these 1000 classes, 1000 objects anyway we need to create. You know how to create, right? Altogether how many classes you have? Controllers plus service plus DAOs. Totally you have 3000. So it means 3000 bean tags must be there in your XML file. 3000 bean tags. And if there is no auto wiring concept, you need to configure constructor tag 3 constructor tag or a property tag if there is no auto wiring. Either this one or this one, again 3000 times for dependency injection. Right? Without dependency injection, my service may not call DAOs, and without service dependency controller may not call service methods. So 3000 times or at least 2000 times DAO to service, service to controller. 2000 these tags must be required. So while using auto wiring, this is completely avoided. Auto wiring is avoiding this part completely. Auto wiring is avoiding this completely. You need not to configure any of these tags. See, While doing constructor based dependency injection or setter based dependency injection, we were using these tags, right, manually while you are doing. As a developer, if you need to configure all these classes, controller services within your XML file, you are doing this configuring bean tags, configuring property tags. As a developer, you need to, stick to your seat, and you need to put lot of time to write the code without taking breaks. As a developer, you are doing it manually. Earlier, you were writing this bean tags. Within the bean tags, you were doing, or dependency injection manually. So when auto wiring concepts came into the picture, this we are not doing, right. We are not calling any constructor or property tags. Automatically dependency injection was happening, right. So for developer, we reduced this burden. As a developer, now you relaxed from this dependency injection manually. Instead of doing dependency injection manually, you are enjoying with auto wiring. Okay. And there is one more concept now to avoid this bean tags also. As a developer, you even need not to configure this bean tags. You can avoid this as well. You can simply relax. Just write these classes and relax it. You need not to configure bean tags, and you need not to do dependency injection manually. Everything container will take care. So as a developer, you need not to even visit your XML file. You can relax. Though you write 3,000 classes, 30,000 classes, 1 lakh classes, or millions of classes, even single class you need not to configure it in your XML file. Object Spring will take care of your beans creation. Spring will take care of dependency injection. Then you can relax. Altogether, the tags within your XML file, around 6,000 tags that you are maintaining manually, is avoided. That burden is completely avoided. This is like a Tesla car mode. When everything it is doing Tesla car, right? Just you need to sit and adjust your location where you want to go. It will take you there. If it is a manual, hmm, upgrading, correct, correct. In olden days, we used to do this job. Now, I'm teaching you from the scratch, right? That's why the old approach also have shown you till here. Now, when we go to the next level, you will be realizing it. Okay, this much burden they avoided in this version. So internal things also you will be getting, clearly. When something happened to your framework, you can guess what might happen internally, as you know how programmatically everything it is doing internally, right? So now I am going to avoid this bean tags also. So here we avoided this setters or constructors, manually. Instead of we passing it, we ask it to do everything auto detect or auto wiring by name, by type, or constructor. So automatically it is injecting it. Otherwise, if I don't have this, I need to put lot of tags here. You need to, if it is a having constructor, right? If you want to call this constructor, 3 arguments constructor, you need to call manually constructor argument. You need to pass first argument reference a mango banana. See, if you see one single class, only lot of configuration we avoided here. Whatever we are doing it here, we avoided that with auto wire, constructor, or auto detect. Now this complete class is also going to disappear. You need not to configure it. Maybe your question is next, how it will create these beans. If I don't configure it here, how it will understand there is a apple class, how it will understand there is a mango class, how it will understand there is a banana class, and how it will understand there is a store class. Yes, it can do it in a reverse way. Instead, you configuring them here, you can say to your Spring, go to so and so package, read the classes, and create objects for them. We are doing earlier, we are registering it. Earlier we were registering them via XML file. First thing, as a developer, you are writing all the classes. Implement the classes, and then you use to register them here into XML file. We used to configure classes here. Then we used to load it into IOC container. Finally, we used to load this into IOC container. This file we used to pass. So we were doing this registering operation. As a developer, you were doing this registry operation. You are registering everything into XML file. Okay. Now instead you registering it here manually, Spring can do it in a different way. You need not to register this. You need not to do it. Instead, you registering configuring classes here. If you avoid this, right? If you avoid this, just give here for in a XML file, just give package name. Just give package name to IOC. IOC will do what? It will go and read all your classes. It will search classes and create objects. Instead, you doing it, container will do it for you. Instead, I go to voter register center and registering for vote. Government only sending somebody to my home to register my vote before elections. Instead, I registering my classes into XML file and giving it to IOC. I am saying it to IOC, go to so and so packages and read all of the classes. So IOC will do search on these packages and it will create objects for you. And dependency injection also it can do, because auto wiring is there. We'll see auto wiring XML approach, annotations approach. Once we're done with this, objects creation, how objects will be created automatically. Okay. So we call that concept as stereotypes concept. Stereotypes concept. Okay. Very, very important concept. The upcoming two sessions are. So while you are writing classes, right? How many variants of classes we can have means generally controllers we will write. We will be writing service classes. You may call business. We will be writing DAO classes, and something like connection pool or configurations we write, right? So we call them configuration classes. And you will be having some utility classes or helper classes, you can say. So you will be having that helper classes. You will be having controllers.